Harper Audio presents Showdown, the inside story of how Obama fought back against Boehner, Cantor, and the Tea Party, by David Korn. This is the author. For Velmut, Micah, and Amaranth. It is silly not to hope. Ernest Hemingway, The Old Man and the Sea. Introduction. Bending the Arc. It was the first Saturday morning of December 2010. President Barack Obama was in the Oval Office with Vice President Joe Biden, surrounded by his top aides. Message guru David Axelrod, Press Secretary Robert Gibbs, Acting Chief of Staff Pete Rouse, longtime friend and advisor Valerie Jarrett, Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner, National Economic Council Chief Larry Summers, Budget Director Jack Lew, Economic Advisor Gene Sperling, and others. Once again, the nation's chief executive had a tough, presidency-defining decision to render. A month earlier, Obama had experienced what he had accurately dubbed a shellacking at the polls. In the first midterm elections of his presidency, the Republicans had won 63 seats in the House of Representatives, seizing control of that body. In the Senate, the GOP had also advanced, cutting the Democrats' edge by 2/3. With unemployment still terribly high, the ongoing result of the financial collapse that had occurred during George W. Bush's administration, the president and his Democratic comrades had been soundly repudiated by the voters, with an electoral loss greater than many observers had predicted and far worse than Obama and his team had anticipated. Whatever ideas Obama had for bolstering the still flagging economy, for funding his preferred public investments for the future, for responding to climate change and other challenges, the House Republicans, dominated by the extremist, Obama-hating Tea Party wing of their party, would be there to thwart him. Yet the president was determined to demonstrate that he was still a leader who could deliver results and, yes, hope. And this weekend morning, he and his aides had gathered in his office to consider a private and politically risky proposal the vice president was bearing. For months, a battle had been brewing over a fundamental political and policy question. Should wealthy Americans, at this time of economic peril, continue to receive the generous tax cut bonus Bush had awarded them in his first term? The Bush tax cuts were due to end on December 31st, 2010. If Obama and Congress did nothing, taxes would not only go up on the wealthy, but also on middle-class Americans covered by the Bush cuts. That would cause personal hardship for millions of Americans. Worse, Obama and his economic team worried, this would likely damage the tenuous economic recovery that was sputtering along. Obama had been unambiguous. He favored continuing the lower rates for middle-class earners and allowing the top income rates to return to the pre-Bush levels of the 1990s, when the economy was zipping along rather well. Smothering the Bush tax cuts for the well-to-do had been a prominent promise and a major applause line during his 2008 run for the presidency. But the filibuster-wielding Republicans were not interested in decoupling the middle-class cuts from those for the rich. They wanted to see all the Bush tax cuts extended. They were willing to hold the middle class hostage. No cuts for these Americans unless the extra breaks for those making over $250,000 a year continued, even if the tax cuts for the rich would add an estimated $700 billion to the deficit over the coming decade. Obama knew many of his Democratic allies on Capitol Hill and progressive activists and commentators were spoiling for a fight, particularly in the aftermath of the midterms debacle. Such a confrontation would define the difference between the parties. It could revive Democratic prospects, if it could be won. Obama and his aides had long wondered whether enough House and Senate Democrats could stand fast in this sort of face-off and resist.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?